No one noticed when the river changed its color. It was a slow, silvery shift, too subtle for the busy eyes of fishermen, too smooth for the mothers pounding yam by the banks. But it began long before the women of Ayanfe stopped sleeping in their husbands' beds. Long before they began changing. Ayanfe was a small village nestled between water and forest. The people were proud, and their marriages were sacred. The women were known for their beauty and strength, and the men for their labor and laughter. Everything had rhythm, harvests, births, deaths, until the season the river spoke. It didn't use words. It sent women instead. They arrived without warning. 5 of them, drenched in rain, wrapped in plain cloth, barefooted, barefoot-eyed. Women unlike any seen before. Tall, radiant, with skin like moonlit obsidian. They said little, just that they came from the coast, and that they needed a place to rest. The chief, moved by their silence and beauty, offered an old hut by the riverbank. They bowed together, eyes shimmering. That night, the frogs stopped singing. In the days that followed, nothing obvious happened. But husbands noticed their wives were distracted. Girls, who once gossiped endlessly, now sat in stillness. Mothers forgot salt in the soup. Wives returned late from the stream. Eyes wandered, not to men, but toward the riverbank hut. And those women, the strangers, they smiled, always smiled. They walked slowly through the village like they had lived there forever. They didn't beg. They didn't sell. They didn't speak unless spoken to. But when they looked at you, you forgot what you were saying. The first man to complain was Sango, the blacksmith. His wife, Iwatami, had been a flame, fierce, loud, sharp with words, and wild with love. But now, she moved like a ghost. She cleaned without speaking. At night, she lay stiff beside him, eyes wide open. "Are you sick?" he asked. She blinked, then whispered, "I can't hear you over the water." And then she left. No bags, no goodbye. She walked straight to the riverbank and never returned. 3 other wives followed within the week. Panic spread. The men gathered before the chief. "Something is wrong," they said. "Our wives are being taken, charmed, possessed." The chief ordered the women at the river to be questioned. They smiled and said, "We do not chase. They come to us." Then one added, in a voice like deep water, "You built your village on our bones. You fish our kin. You name your daughters after the ocean, but never ask her if she agrees." That night, the priests were summoned. Incense was burned. Cowries were cast. The river was prayed to. But the river didn't answer. Instead, the men's dreams changed. They saw their wives underwater, dancing slowly in glowing caves. Their arms wrapped around other women, kissing, laughing, free. The dreams didn't feel evil. They felt ancient, powerful, inevitable. The men awoke shaking. Some cried. Soon, women who had never even met the river's strangers were leaving too. Not running, just shifting. They would spend hours staring into the water, brushing their hair, humming songs that hadn't been taught. One night, the village drum leader's daughter, just 15, walked into the river singing, "I remember the salt in my mother's blood." She never came out. The river, once a source of life, now felt like a gate. One elder finally told the truth. Long ago, before Ayanfe had a name, there was a village of mermaids. They lived in harmony with early humans, sharing water, food, even stories. But one day, a jealous chief tricked a mermaid, loved by both men and women, and cut off her tail. He forced her to remain human and bear his children. She died in silence. Her sisters disappeared beneath the current. And they vowed, when the land forgets who loved it first, we will return to take it back. That return had come. The 5 women were no strangers. They were scouts, messengers. But they did not use war or blood. They used memory. They reminded the women what freedom felt like, what warmth felt like, what it felt like to be seen, to be touched without fear, to be chosen without begging. They did not seduce. They simply offered what had always been missing. By the time the village realized, half the women were gone. Some followed physically. Others faded into trance, smiling endlessly, singing to the wind, combing hair no longer wet. And then, the 5 visitors vanished too. No footprints. No words. Only shells in the places where they slept. The river turned clear again. Now, if you visit Ayanfe during the Harmattan, you might hear laughter echoing from the water. Women's voices. And if a woman ever stares too long into a puddle, or hums a tune she doesn't remember learning, her husband will know. The river is calling again. And some women always answer.